We're starting off today with something not many people get to see, the remnants of ancient ships. Sri Lanka's waters have some of the best shipwreck sites, and one of its most iconic is the Little and Great Bases shipwreck in Kirinda. A ship of treasures belonging to Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb, carrying a lot of newly minted silver coins, it went down in 1703. It was first discovered by Sir Arthur C. Clarke in 1961. We continue sailing across the world. Welcome to Kaleidoscope with Savithri Rodrigo, where we give you positive, daring and different news. Coming up, planting for 1,000 species, checking on the stock market, and art meets tech. Kaleidoscope is on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram and LinkedIn. Do subscribe, follow and like us. We do enjoy having you with us. A big thank you to our fabulous partners on the show, Srilanka Live, CDP and The Daily Morning, for your immense support.
She wins with CDB Wings, exclusive financial solutions for women.
So here's CDB Snapshot with a look back at the week that was. Sri Lanka's export earnings hit an all-time high of 16.17 billion US dollars in 2024. The Sri Lankan rupee is the worst performing emerging market currency in January, with a negative spot return of 1.72%. Johan Pires becomes the first Sri Lankan to summit Mount Vinson, the highest mountain in Antarctica. Sri Lankan batsman Kamindu Mendis is named the ICC Men's Emerging Cricketer of the Year for 2024. Passenger traffic in all airports grew by 18% to over 8.88 million in 2024. Japan wins gold at the 2025 Pastry World Cup, with France bagging silver and Malaysia getting bronze. China unveils DeepSeek R1, a powerful AI model that can go toe-to-toe with ChatGPT at a fraction of the cost. Martha Stewart debuts a pink and apricot hybrid tea rose named after her in North America, so people can have Martha Stewart in their gardens.
You focus on your goals. We will take care of the risks. Srilanka Life.
Welcome to Srilanka Life News Capsule. From November 2024, the Colombo stock market continued to reach all-time highs. On November 27th, it crossed the 13,000 point mark, and on the 12th of December, the 14,000 point mark. That trajectory has continued in January, and we seem to be going up and up. So is this now the norm, or is it the exception? Research analyst at Acuity Stockbrokers Sajani Dewapura is in the studio today to give us the gen. Sri Lanka's stock market started off on a good footing for 2025. What are your projections for the end of the year, and what factors do you think will actually influence that projection?
In 2025, we have a positive outlook driven by a recovering economy and improving investor sentiment. So we expect the economy to grow by 4.5% in 2025, and for short-term interest rates to further decline marginally, which should support a market re-rating. As the market re-rates, supported by sentiment and higher liquidity, we anticipate the market's price to earnings ratio to increase from around 9 times PE to around 10.5 to 11 times PE by the year end. We project approximately 15% increase in market earnings, and we expect the ASPI to have further upside by at least 17% by the end of this year. And additionally, we expect Sri Lanka's nominal GDP to reach 30.1 trillion LKR by the end of 2024 and further grow to 32.5 trillion LKR in 2025. Also, an important point to note is that currently there are 154 counters trading below 8 times PE ratio on TTM earnings compared to 128 counters above it. So this indicates significant upside potential for a large number of stocks, especially as the market re-rates. And in summary, with a strong economic recovery, earnings growth, potential for market re-rating, we believe the Sri Lankan stock market is well positioned for growth in 2025, offering attractive opportunities for investors.
Sajani, looking at the fundamentals and the valuations, what sectors are actually going to hold promise for this year?
Sectors such as banking, retail, construction and some exports should see strong growth this year due to a combination of favorable economic conditions, improving market fundamentals and attractive valuations. So investors in these areas may find solid opportunities for growth in 2025.
Now that we know where the market is heading, let's take a look at the stock market as well as our oil and gold markets. The oil share price index continued to break records with its upward momentum, pushing the market price earnings ratio closer to 10 times earnings. Oil prices moved up slightly but near a 2-week low, around $80 per barrel, after weak economic data from China and expectations of warmer weather in the US soured the demand outlook. Gold is still close to all-time highs of $2,745 per ounce, even though China's net gold imports fell in December and investors sold their equity portfolios. Thailand recently became the first Southeast Asian country to recognize marriage equality. While hundreds of couples rushed to tie the knot, the landmark bill was cause for much celebration. Sri Lanka is known as a biodiversity hotspot, but it also has the highest rate of primary forest destruction, which means our species are in dire straits. But then there is plant. An initiative of the Wildlife and Nature Protection Society, there are plans on building a 1,000 species refuge to save our diversity. Ambitious, you may say, but we have to start somewhere. So we asked Vice President of WNPS and Chairman of Plant, Sriyan de S Wijeyeratne, to come on the show. He's been on the show before, but he will give us a clearer picture. A refuge for 1,000 species, that's a very ambitious project, Sriyan. How do you plan on going about doing this?
It is an ambitious plan, but it didn't start with a 1,000 number or anything like that. The Wildlife and Nature Protection Society in 2020 set up an initiative called Plant, Preserving Land and Nature. And the whole idea was to get private sector involved in conservation, create their own private conservation spaces and build forest corridors. So if we were going to be able to do that decently well, the species would automatically come. And that's the journey which we've embarked on passionately for the last few years, encouraging private sector, including acquiring some lands ourselves, to set up private conservation spaces in Sri Lanka.
So what species have you identified? We have a large number of endangered or species on the red list as well. So which ones have you prioritized?
We do something called a rapid biodiversity assessment, a couple of days, light touch. We are in 28 locations, but we've done it in 10. And in those 10, we've already found 1,159 species, out of which 550 are fauna and the rest are flora, including 125 endangered or critically endangered species. So it's a lot. And so this is a huge responsibility to kind of be almost a guardian or protector for these species who call those areas their home. So what we are prioritizing in a sense is not at individual species level, but for us the ecosystem is what becomes the key.
So like I said before, it's an ambitious plan. What challenges are you seeing in getting this in place now?
We didn't get much encouragement at the start. because this was an ambitious plan. We were trying to set up forest corridors in the southwest part of Sri Lanka, the highest development area. So people said, you can't do it, the government will not support you, people will not give land, all of that. So we had all those challenges. But on ground now, when we start identifying lands is a challenge. When we acquire lands, encroachment, illegal logging, we've had people illegally taking our waterways out. People have come and destroyed our camera traps. We recently bought some lands which were being targeted by gem merchants, and mysteriously a few weeks later the entire ridge caught fire. So we've had multiple layers of challenges, not to mention legally. Legally we are quite challenged because if you look at the law in Sri Lanka, if I have a property, I can fill it up, I can cut all the trees, I can fill all the water holes and kill every species and plant something. Nobody has a problem. But if me as a conservationist, if I own the same land and I say the water is drying up here, can I take these rare species and put them in the other corner of my estate? The law says no. So legally, agriculture has a license to kill. Conservation doesn't have a license to protect. That license is being held by the state. Now in areas that land is largely privately owned, obviously this becomes a huge challenge.
So, Sriyan, if plant doesn't intervene, what are we to expect?
Extinction. Unfortunately, that's what's on the roadmap, because these endemics, some of them are, like you said, very range restricted, and if no one is intervening, their lifespans are going to be extremely limited, so we are going to be counting down the species in the coming few decades. So plants intervention is to try to provide some hope here, but plant doesn't think it can do this by itself. So our mission is to be a social catalyst. We want to showcase this, to show people that private sector conservation is important in Sri Lanka and very possible. So we'd like more parties to join us, but we don't want to be the ones doing everything. We just want to show people how it can be done, and hopefully there'll be 10 plant similar, copycat or similar initiatives or better, all doing the same thing. That is really our ambition.
Redefining conventions with unrestrained creativity has been the hallmark of Muvindu Binoy's work right throughout. He recently had Automata at the Saskia Fernando Gallery, integrating a large dose of tech into his work that speak of nature's bounty and also a deeper infusion of exploring identity, gender and culture.
It is a compilation of digital collage works that is influenced and kind of co-created together with AI. All these images were created using AI, so none of these image fragments don't have any original context to it. So even if you see eyes and people here, none of these people really exist. So it's kind of interesting for me to play with that context to see, like, if you, for example, if anybody see like a fragment of Mona Lisa, you can see it's Mona Lisa and you have the original context. But in this case, none of these fruits or the people or the leaves, none of these have any original context. I think that would be the base of Automata.
Binoy's thoughts are somewhat fragmented in his works, questioning as to what makes us more human in this tech-fueled world and whether man is actually free. The word fragile written in Sinhalese adds another dimension to his collection.
Visually for me it's very fragile, it has very sort of like a sort of very secular quality to it, but it's an English word. I mean, if you can read Sinhala, you can read the word out loud, but if you don't know Sinhala, it's like it looks like a pattern. So I like to keep the suspense to it without it saying anything.
So embrace Automata. We'll be back next week.